So good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending the regular council meeting of Wednesday, January 10th of 2024, in person and online. I'm hoping that everyone has had a chance to spend time with loved ones while also rest and recharge over the holidays. We're looking back at last year. The weather has been rather clement, perhaps almost even too clement for skiers and those who love winter sports and outdoor winter activities. Temperatures will be dropping this evening with more snow coming over the weekend. So here we are, starting our 27th month together, also starting our 3rd January with a new DG. We are fortunate to have Marie-Jacinthe Roberge at the helm of the town's organization with us this year and for hopefully many more years. As most of you will know, the budget for 2024 was adopted on December 11th of 2023 with an increase of 3.8%, a general increase. The installments for payment are given on the town's website and are March 21st of 2024, June 20th of 2024, and September 19th of 2024. There's more details on the town's website if you'd like to look into the presentation and other details. This evening, we will be adopting the final bylaws for those two, so for tarification and also a couple of adjustments to taxation. Also, with regards to items on this evening's agenda, under the bylaws, you will see that this month we are starting the process of releasing the RCI. This is the interim control measures that we adopted in December on arrival, so in 2021. This month there will be 2 open houses, one on the 25th of January and another on January 27th on Saturday morning. Also with a public consultation evening on January 31st and followed by a written consultation period that will run until February 14th. All of these these details will be posted on the town's website tomorrow and mailed to you starting tomorrow. So it will look like this. It's a pamphlet that you will find in your mailboxes and online as well, giving you the information in French and in English. I'd like to thank the team for putting together all of this information. So Laura, thank you. She's probably watching from home. And merci à Marie-Jacinthe et aussi à Martin Houd for all of your work. In this way, we're very excited. We're very keen to see how you will perceive or receive the work that we have been doing over the last 2 years in this sense. So this is really for the environmental protection of natural areas of interest and also our trees. With regards to bridge lane closures, so in terms of the evolution of the situation, as you may remember, through a routine inspection carried out on Friday of December 1st last year, there was an anomaly that was found with the damaged section of the slab, and this is what caused the reduction to 1 lane in each direction. Mitigations were put in place. And as of November, they had added 1 train departing from Hudson and 1 train returning to Hudson, so in addition of the 1 that we already have. And as of Monday, January 8th, they have added 1 more train in each direction. So this means that we now have 3 trains leaving on weekday mornings, so at 6:13, 7 a.m., and 7:33. And returning, there are now 3 trains coming from Lucien Lallier. They're leaving the Lucien Lallier Gare train station at 4:40, at 5:20, and at 6:05. So they're arriving in Hudson at 6:03, 6:43, and 7:26. So please take advantage of these measures. The train is free at this time, and it is said that once the lanes reopen, so right now we're moving from 2, or we have 2, when they will move to 3 lanes, they will then move to a reduced gratuity where there will be a reduction of 25% on train tickets, but at this time they're free. Also remember that since December, the toll on the Autoroute 30 is free, so that is also an alternate route. I know that Darren used this route in order to make it here on time for the meeting this evening, so please look into these. As well, connections from the train to the metro or to the buses on the island of Montreal are also free. Tomorrow, there will be the return of the information sessions with the Ministry of Transportation. These had started early December, where about once a week the Ministry of Transport would bring information to the mayors of the area, but also to the health and public security representatives and other instances. So these are opportunities for us to ask questions and see how they're progressing on other mitigation measures that might be out there, but also to receive rapid updates. This meeting had originally been scheduled for Friday and has been moved up to tomorrow. That always makes us a little bit nervous, so hopefully we're not going to get some negative news, but all this to say that we'll keep our eyes peeled and it will be shared. They're getting better at sharing the information with us, but also they have their own Facebook page and their own website as well. So do keep up with all of those and let us know if we can help you as well. I know that we're also putting the information on our town's website. So as I mentioned, with regards to the RCI, the schedule is unrolling. This evening we are releasing the first draft of the changes in the bylaws that are resulting from these added means of preserving or improving the preservation of our natural areas of interest. These will be mailed out, as I'd mentioned, in terms of the invitations to the open house. The open house, the Thursday, January 25th, will be in the evening between 7 and 9. So this is an opportunity for people to come, receive the information. There will be kiosks on different parts of the bylaws that have been changed. There will be people here to answer any questions that you have. You can take away some material as well. So there's one on the evening, that Thursday, and then there will be one on the Saturday morning, the 27th as well, for those who can't make it there in the evening. And then on the evening of the 31st of January, then there will be really a consultation meeting that will be run by our external expert on public consultations, who will essentially be the chair of the evening, and there will be presentations from our experts, so the urban planners who have helped the town with this process. And we hope that with the information and any questions that you may have acquired during the two open door events, that you will come prepared and able to ask the questions that are on the top of your mind. And then after this consultation evening, there will be a 2-week period for you to essentially write in your comments or your concerns or your suggestions on how to improve the bylaws. So this is really a period for us to test whether we've hit the mark or we should go further in protecting the environment. So essentially to see with you how this is received, and we're really understanding that protecting the environment has to come through the support and the belief of the public. We can't just impose it. We must also build the public acceptability in order to get there. There's a lot of measures that do have an impact on private property. So these would probably go more through a conservation plan rather than through a black and white bylaw that basically puts restrictions. So for us, it's to find that fair middle, the one where everybody is comfortable and will embrace this vision that the town has at this point. So moving on with other items, we will have 5 TPAC files on the agenda this evening. You'll notice that at item 3.8, we are renewing some of the TPAC members, so there are 3 being renewed, as the term of the members is 2 years and it is renewable. So we are renewing Victoria Henderson, who has already completed 3 terms, so who has been on TPAC since 2018. We're also renewing Arthur Boisdin and David Murray, who have both completed their first mandate, which began in 2022. Also, some of you may remember that in December we've added a new member, Julien Gagné, who will be starting with us at the next TPAC meeting, which is next Tuesday. Also, in terms of hiring this evening, you'll notice that there are 2 items with regards to hiring. So if you may remember from last year, we have 8 vacant positions. So in December, we announced the hiring, or we adopted a resolution hiring our environment technician. This is Sofia Fuga. So she has started on Monday, and we're very excited to be working with her. This evening, we're looking to hire 2 more people. So one is filling a vacant position in the Culture and Recreations Department for an Activities and Events Technician, and also replacing the Assistant of the Public Works Foreman. There are other postings on our town's website. We invite you to look these up and to submit your candidacies if you're interested. With regards to our committees, I know that Mark wanted to give an update with regards to the Environment Committee, but also to give thanks to our Conservation Working Group. So please go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. So we're abolishing the CWG, which was the Conservation Working Group, having completed the mandate. This was the committee which was implemented right after the RCI. It was chaired by me with co-counsellor Doug Smith. So I'd like to thank all the members of the CWG. They were David Callant, who's now on the Environment Committee, JJ Corker, Tanya Bruns, Brian Elaylor, Sylvie Ferron, Lorraine Caron. She was a consultant from St. Lazare, who was also volunteered, as did everybody here. Kevin Soleric, who's now also on the Environment Committee, and Donald Atwood. When the RCI was introduced, there was a lot of work needed to fully understand the Eco to Herbs study, among many other studies related to our natural environment. The mandate being to validate the data and make recommendations to Council for the implementation of certain protection measures. 12 formal meetings were held, along with countless hours done at home studying and synthesizing the data. All this was done within a compressed meeting schedule right after the RCI was introduced, and at times there were very tight timelines for us. I, on behalf of the town, would like to thank these engaged citizens for all of their time and effort. Thank you. And next are some changes to the Environment Committee. Mm-hmm. A few members have had changes in their lives that required them to step back from their roles, and that makes space for new members. So I would like to thank Diane Manning, Chantal St. Laurent, Adrian Michel, and Mariana Johnston for all their hard work and input. It was a pleasure working with you all. Taking their places are 4 new members, whom I will now welcome to the committee. Those are James McIntosh. He's a Concordia University Professor of Economics, PhD from London School of Economics, Vice President, Policy, Liberal Electoral District Associations. These are things sort of related to this job or benefits for us. NDG Westmount member, Black Community Research Center, Environmental Committee, Liberal Electoral District Association, with Peter Schiftke, which is very interesting because it kind of gives us a little bridge with the Fed's work. Next is Stéphane Desjardins, retired agronomist, worked for 30 years in the agricultural sector. He worked in Sweden, New Zealand, and the ROC, rest of Canada. Kirsten Bowser, Bachelor of Science in Wildlife Biology at McGill and a Master's in Science and Biology at the University of New Brunswick, and currently is Scientific Engagement Coordinator for the Canadian Mountain Network, Braiding Knowledges Canada. And Ariane Jonasson, a career-focused puller on motion pictures and commercials, and a certificate in innovation management from the Montreal HEC, École des Hautes Études Commerciales. So I just asked the people who are interested to give me a sort of a brief background. It sounds very lofty, but it's it's great to just have a cross-section of people. An extra bonus for the real sciencey smart people, but just these are citizen committees, so having a broad section of the, of the citizenry in Hudson is really the goal, and we just got lucky. It's sort of like having architects within TPAC. It's great, not required, but it's certainly a bonus to have that kind of intelligence within these committees. So welcome to those folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. No, it's we're very blessed, right? I think Hudson definitely attracts a lot of people who hold environment too close to their heart, and it's nice that they want to participate and be engaged. And now that we have an environment technician, it's even more exciting because we'll get to move forward. But I also would like to thank the members of that conservation working group. They were very brave to join us, and we were a new team, new council, jumped in with both of our feet, and so did they. And I think that also having Lorraine Caron from St. Lazare, who had a lot of experience on their environment committee as well, was very helpful. And so it certainly helped us launch on the right foot. So thank you. With regards to the Cultural Policy Committee, the third meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 13th, and it is expected that an external consultant of the name of Esther Robitaille will join the team as an external person. She has expertise in municipal cultural policies, and it is expected that she will help with the production and writing of documents to restore the pace of the work and possibly even make up for lost time. Obviously, we're looking to deliver this cultural policy as rapidly as possible, so before the end of the year would be nice so that we can integrate some of our investments into the following budget, so for 2025, but more so, and I was speaking about this with Marie-Jacinthe on Monday, it is also the tool through which we can be asking for des ententes, so agreements with the Ministry of Cultural Affairs in order to receive subsidies for some of our bigger projects. So one that I would like to see happen, of course, is a inventory, or what we call une étude de potentiel, so a potential study for archaeology. As we all know, the glassworks in Como was recognized by the Ministry of Culture as well, and the next step would be to determine what would we do, or what will we do, or what would we like to do with this site, and where are we going with this. But there are other sites in Hudson that we might want to look into and learn more about and do some further digs and so on. So that, for me, is one of our important projects. With regards to meetings with the mayor, these continue. So this Saturday, January 13th, from 10 a.m. until noon, you're invited to join me. It's not a very big space. There is about room for a dozen people. There's some standard people who come every month, regular people who come every month, which is lovely. Sometimes the meeting is all in English, sometimes it's all in French. It really depends on who's around the table. But essentially, it's the people who come who set the agenda. We do a first sort of round of the table, and I write down all of the topics that they bring to the table, and then I'll gradually go through these and tie into the different elements that everybody's brought, and it generates enough discussion for 2 hours. It's very pleasant, it's very relaxed. It gives another format for people to come and meet a council member, meet the mayor. But also what I was thinking of doing this Saturday is I have spent quite a bit of time over the holidays preparing a report on the work that we have done from 2021 until now. And it is, unfortunately, 3.5 pages long. So I wasn't going to read it this evening, but I would certainly share a copy of this letter or this report to anybody who would be interested in it. I'm still tweaking it. There are a couple of comments that came in this afternoon that I would like to fine-tune. But ideally also finding a format that is more digestible for the public to be able to assimilate and to have a better appreciation for the amount of work that we do, but also for the interconnectedness of some of these items and how it's not always as straightforward as we might think. But this might be a good format. So the coffee with the mayor might be a good one. And maybe from there I can reduce it to a one-pager, which is what I'm always asking people to do. So maybe I'll do it myself and post it online or do something like that. I know that Marie-Jacinthe will also be sharing this letter with the employees. There's some some elements in there that I think give a decent perspective on, if you think that when we came in, we were in full COVID measures, the meetings were online, there was a lot of distanciation and a lot of uncertainty, and when you see also the rapid increase as well in the cost of materials and inflation and the impact that that has had on every capital project that we've had as well, it might give or shed some light as to how it is that we are here today. So anyway, looking forward to having this conversation with many of you, and ready to move on to tonight's agenda. So thank you. So I remind you that this meeting is recorded, and that at the question period, when you come to the mic, you will be recorded. This will be placed on the town's website. I don't know if it's in perpetuity, but it certainly will be for a few years in terms of archives. So if you're uncomfortable with that, it might not be the best forum for you, but you can come to the Saturday Coffee with the Mayor, and I promise I won't be recording you. Item 1.1, adoption of the agenda. So this resolution is that the agenda of the regular council meeting of January 10th, so that is today of 2024, be and is hereby adopted as submitted. Allez-y.
1.1, adoption de l'ordre du jour. Alors, la présente résolution vise à ce que l'ordre du jour de la présente séance ordinaire du Conseil du 10 janvier 2024 soit adopté tel que soumis.
Merci. Do I have a proposer? Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Aha. 3, 6, 9 plus me. So that's 8. 8 plus me. And there's, yes. Some people I recognize, others there's no last name, so it's difficult for me to say. But yes, we have a nice following. And in the room there are, this for online because you don't see, there are some family members as usual. We love our supporters. And I'd say an extra 4 maybe. So that's it. With regards to section 2, confirmation of minutes. Item 2.1, so confirmation of the December 2023 meeting minutes. This resolution is that minutes of the council meeting held on December 4th of 2023 be and is hereby approved as submitted, and that the minutes of council budget special meeting held on December 11th of 2023 at 7:30 p.m. be and is hereby approved as submitted, and that the minutes of the council special meeting held on December 11th of 2023 at 8:10 p.m. or starting at 8:10 p.m. be and is hereby approved as submitted. En français.
Le point 2, approbation des procès-verbaux. 2.1, adoption des procès-verbaux de décembre 2023. La présente résolution vise à ce que le procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 4 décembre 2023 soit approuvé par les présents tel que soumis, que le procès-verbal de la séance extraordinaire du budget tenue le 11 décembre 2023 à 19h30 soit approuvé par les présents tel que soumis, et que le procès-verbal de la séance extraordinaire du 11 décembre 2023, débutant à 20h10, soit approuvé par les présents tel que soumis.
Merci. Do I have a proposal? I'll look right. Benoît Blais, looking left. Mark Gray. I was about to call you Martin Gray. Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. This is now the first question period is open. So again, I will alternate with one online, one in the room. So please come to the microphone if you would like to ask a question, or online, just put your hand up and we will alternate. There are no hands up online, and there's no one at the microphone in the room. So we will proceed. Section 3, Urban Planning and Environment, Item 3.1, 329 Main, SPAPE, New Detached Single Family Construction. Did you want to read, or do you want me to read?
Yeah, I'll do it. So, as Item 3.1, 329 Main, a permit request was received for a new detached single family construction at 329 Main. The Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to approve the SPAPE, so this resolution is to approve the SPAPE permit request for 329 Main.
Exactly. Do I have a mover for this resolution?
Français.
Excusez-moi.
Alors, l'item 3, urbanisme et environnement, 3.1. Alors, considérant qu'une demande de permis a été reçue pour une nouvelle construction unifamiliale isolée pour le 329 rue Maine, considérant la recommandation unanime du comité consultatif d'urbanisme d'approuver le PIA, la présente résolution vise à approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de permis pour le 329 rue Maine.
Merci. So do I have a proposer for this? So Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There is one. And as Mrs. McKercher will ask you every time,
Est-ce que c'est enregistré?
Non, c'est bon. Donc c'est adopté par majorité. Adopted by majority. Item 3.2, 171 Main, a SPAPE addition. Read.
So a permit request was received for an addition at 171 Main. The Town Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation by majority to approve the SPAPE. So this is to approve the SPAPE permit request at 171 Main.
Very nice.
3.2, 171 rue Maine. Alors, une demande de permis a été reçue pour un agrandissement pour le 171 Maine. La recommandation majoritaire du comité consultatif d'urbanisme est d'approuver le PIA. Alors, la résolution vise à approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de permis pour le 171 rue Maine.
Merci. Do I have a mover? So Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hands. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.3, 504 Main, SPAPE major renovation. Read.
So a permit request was received for major renovation works at 504 Main. The Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to refuse the SPAPE and the unfulfilled criteria are as follows. Preserve the existing architecture of the current building. Ensure that the architectural elements respect the architectural character of the building. Ensure, in the case of a building of heritage interest, a restoration approach rather than a renovation approach in order to restore the building to its original character. Ensure, in the case of a building of heritage interest, if renovations have already altered the original character, the return to the original state. And finally, to reflect the architecture of neighboring heritage buildings. So this is to refuse the SPAPE permit request of 504 Main.
3.3, 504 Maine, PIA rénovation majeure. Alors, une demande de permis a été reçue pour des travaux de rénovation majeure pour le 504 rue Maine. La recommandation unanime du comité consultatif d'urbanisme est de refuser le PIA, les critères non remplis, préserver l'architecture existante du bâtiment actuel, assurer que les éléments architecturaux respectent le caractère architectural du bâtiment, assurer, dans le cas d'un bâtiment d'intérêt patrimonial, une approche de restauration plutôt qu'une approche de rénovation afin de redonner au bâtiment son caractère d'origine, assurer, dans le cas d'un bâtiment d'intérêt patrimonial, si des rénovations ont déjà été altérées, le caractère original, le retour à l'état original. Un rappel de l'architecture des bâtiments avoisinants ayant une valeur patrimoniale. Alors, la présente résolution vise à refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de permis pour le 504 rue Maine.
Merci beaucoup. Do I have a mover? So Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution?
Yes, and as a point of clarification, just this is the second refusal of this presentation. And I'd like that noted, please.
Est-ce que vous voulez le vote?
Est-ce que c'est enregistré?
Oui, s'il vous plaît.
Enregistré?
Oui, s'il vous plaît. Oui.
With mention that it's the second time it's...
S'il vous plaît, oui.
Okay.
Avez-vous besoin d'y aller un à la fois ou c'est bon pour vous avec les mains levées?
Oui, ça va.
Vous les avez écrites?
Oui.
Okay, c'est bon. We're all good. Moving forward. Item 3.4, 579 Main for a SPAPE accessory building. Read.
So a permit request was received for an accessory building or shed at 579 Main. The Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to refuse the SPAPE and the unfulfilled criteria is to ensure that lots are landscaped and integrated well with the character of the scenic route. So this motion, again, is to refuse the SPAPE permit request at 579 Main.
3.4, 579 rue Maine, le PIA, bâtiment accessoire. Alors, une demande de permis a été reçue pour un bâtiment accessoire pour le 579 rue Maine. La recommandation unanime du CCU est de refuser le PIA, car le critère non rempli est d'assurer que les terrains soient pourvus d'aménagements paysagers qui s'intègrent au caractère du chemin de paysage. Donc, la présente résolution vise à refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de permis pour le 579 rue Maine.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution?
Yes.
There is one. Would you like the vote to be recorded?
No.
Non. Donc, c'est adopté à la majorité. Item 3.5, 72 Cameron, SPAPE sign. Reed?
A certificate of authorization request was received for a sign at 72 Cameron. This is for Portobello. The Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to refuse the SPAPE. The request for a certificate of authorization differs from the sign that's currently installed. So because of this, unfortunately, the motion is to refuse the SPAPE request for the certificate of authorization.
3.5, 72 Cameron, PIA enseigne. Une demande de certificat d'autorisation a été reçue pour une enseigne pour le 72 Cameron. La recommandation unanime du CCU est de refuser le PIA. La demande de certificat d'autorisation diffère de l'enseigne installée. Alors, la présente résolution est de refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de certificat d'autorisation pour le 72 rue Cameron.
Merci. Do I have a mover? So Reed Thompson, supported by Mark Gray. I was about to say Peter Mate. Are there any objections? C'est ça? Oui.
Yes.
Il y en a deux.
Clarification as well.
Okay, go ahead.
As I understand it, the TPAC doesn't actually have a problem with what the sign looks like right now. It's just that however it was applied for, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. I don't like that echo. And this is, we don't have a problem with the sign that's there right now.
Correct. The process is that the submittal that was reviewed by TPAC is not matching what has been installed. So if we approve what has been submitted, they would have to change the sign that they've installed. So therefore, it's very silly. We have to refuse this one so that then they'll resubmit. Essentially, they'll just take a photo of what's been installed, resubmit it. We don't expect they'll take the sign down while they're doing it, but it's really just administrative. It's unfortunate.
Is there any cost to them
No,
for this?
it's a photo. The photo already exists.
No,
we even
but
have it
for
in our files.
resubmission?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
Est-ce que les votes sont enregistrés, M. Smith et M. Blais? Non?
Non. Donc, refusé par majorité.
Oui.
These are some of the fun files that we get to see at TPAC, and it always raises an awful lot of discussion. It's not always an easy discussion, but we get through it. So thank you, Reed. So Reed is, the president of TPAC is Peter Mate. Unfortunately, he was unable to be here this evening, and Reed is the other councillor who sits on that committee, which is why Reed was reading the resolutions for me. And I stand in for them depending on their availability. So for example, next Tuesday, neither one of them will be there, so I will be chairing the meeting at TPAC next Tuesday. All this to say, let's move on then to item 3.6, awarding of contract of USD Global. Whereas the contract for the maintenance of the green bins and brown bins with USD Global expires on December 31st of 2023, the service offer provided by USD Global obtained in December of 2023. This resolution is to award the maintenance contract for the green and brown bins for the year of 2024 to USD Global, and that the contract begins retroactively on January 1st of 2024 and ends on December 31st of 2024, and that the maximum amount authorized for this contract is $22,000 before taxes.
3.6, octroi de contrat USD Global. Le contrat de l'entretien des bacs verts et des bacs bruns avec USD Global est à échéance depuis le 31 décembre 2023. L'offre de service par USD Global obtenue en décembre 2023. La présente résolution vise à octroyer le contrat d'entretien des bacs verts et bruns pour l'année 2024 à USD Global. que le contrat débute rétroactivement le 1er janvier 2024 et se termine le 31 décembre 2024, et que la somme maximale autorisée pour ce contrat est de 22 000 $ avant taxe.
Excellent. Do I have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.7, authorization to apply urban planning regulations. So this is every time there's a change to the employee roster, but also in this case, these are external consultants. So we have to specify the name of the people who will be applying the bylaws. The town adopted, whereas the town adopted Resolution R 2023-12-290, awarding a service contract to Gestime for 2 resources in urban planning. This resolution is to appoint Simon Olivier Deng in Samuel Grenier and Kathleen Paradis as the authority having jurisdiction for the following bylaws, as well as all existing or future amendments. So this is a long list: 364, 471, 485, 526, 527, 528, 529, 558, 559, 564, 568, 571, 617, 622, 642, 650, 652, 667, 709, 715, 722, 723, 730, 733, 739, 743, and 750, and to appoint Alexandre Thibault in replacement of Simon Olivier Deng or Samuel Grenier or Kathleen Paradis as authority having jurisdiction for the bylaws mentioned above, and to appoint any other existing or future employee of Gestime in replacement of Simon Olivier Deng or Samuel Grenier or Kathleen Paradis as authority having jurisdiction for the bylaws mentioned above.
3.7, autorisation d'application des règlements d'urbanisme. La résolution numéro R 2023-12-290 par laquelle la Ville a octroyé un contrat de service avec Gestime pour 2 ressources en urbanisme. Alors, la présente résolution vise à nommer Simon Olivier Dagne, Samuel Grenier et Kathleen Paradis à titre de fonctionnaires désignés pour les règlements suivants, ainsi que tous leurs amendements en vigueur ou à venir. 364, 471, 485, 526, 527, 528, 529, 558, 559, 564, 568, 571, 617, 622, 642, 650, 652, 667, 709, 715, 722, 723, 730, 733, 739, 743 et 750. Et de nommer Alexandre Thibault en remplacement à Simon Olivier Dagne ou Samuel Grenier ou Kathleen Paradis à titre de fonctionnaire désigné pour les règlements mentionnés ci-haut. De nommer également tout autre employé existant ou futur de la compagnie Gestime en remplacement à Simon Olivier Dagne ou Samuel Grenier ou Kathleen Paradis à titre de fonctionnaire désigné pour les règlements mentionnés ci-haut.
Toute une bouchée. Oui, hein? Do I have a proposer? Mark Gray, seconded by Benoit Blais. Do I have any objections on this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.8, appointment on TPAC, so Town Planning Advisory Committee. Whereas a Town Planning Advisory Committee has been established in accordance to Section 146 of the Act respecting land use planning and development. The mandate of 3 members expired on January 1st of 2024. This resolution is to renew the mandates of Victoria Henderson, Arthur Boisdin, and David Murray as citizen members for a term of 2 years beginning on January 1st of 2024.
3.8, nomination, membre du comité consultatif d'urbanisme. Un comité consultatif d'urbanisme a été constitué en vertu de l'article 146 de la Loi sur l'aménagement et l'urbanisme. Le mandat de 3 membres est échu depuis le 1er janvier 2024. La présente résolution vise à renouveler les mandats de Victoria Henderson, d'Arthur Boisdin et de David Murray à titre de membres citoyens pour un terme de 2 ans qui débute le 1er janvier 2024.
Merci. Do I have a proposer? Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Do I have any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.9, mandate Quebec Superior Court case regarding nuisances on lot 1833447. So whereas lot 1833447 has been in a state of nuisances for several years, whereas the town sent several letters to the owner between 2018 and 2020 instructing him to remedy the situation causing the nuisances, whereas a formal notice was sent to the owner on May 30th of 2023 instructing him to remedy the situation causing the nuisances, whereas the owner did not carry out the necessary work to eliminate the situation causing the nuisances. This resolution is to authorize the firm DHC Avocat to file a legal claim in the Quebec Superior Court to put an end to the situation of nuisances on lot 1833447.
3.9, mandat, Cour supérieure du Québec, dossier de nuisance sur le lot 1-833-447. Le lot 1-833-447 est dans un état de nuisance depuis plusieurs années. La Ville a fait parvenir plusieurs lettres au propriétaire entre 2018 et 2020, lui enjoignant de faire disparaître la situation de nuisance. Une mise en demeure a été envoyée au propriétaire le 30 mai 2023, lui enjoignant de faire disparaître la situation de nuisance. Le propriétaire n'a pas effectué les travaux requis afin de faire disparaître la situation de nuisance. La présente résolution vise à mandater la firme DHC Avocat afin qu'il dépose une demande en justice à la Cour supérieure du Québec pour faire cesser la situation de nuisance sur le lot 1-833-447.
Merci. Do I have a proposer? Benoit Blais, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.10, tabling of the minutes for Town Planning Advisory Committee, so TPAC. This is for the month of 2023. The members of Council take note of the tabling of the Town Planning Advisory Committee minutes. Mouvez en français.
3.10, dépôt du procès-verbal du CCU novembre 2023. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du procès-verbal du CCU.
Merci. So similarly, item 3.11, tabling of the minutes for Town Planning Advisory Committee, so TPAC, for the November special meeting in 2023, where the members of Council take note of the tabling of the Town Planning Advisory Committee minutes. En français.
3.11, dépôt du procès-verbal du CCU novembre, une séance spéciale 2023. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du procès-verbal du CCU.
Merci. Item 3.12, this is for the tabling of the monthly report for permits issued in November of 2023, where the members of Council take note of the tabling of the monthly reports for permits issued by the Urban Planning Department.
3.12, dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis, novembre 2023. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis du service de l'urbanisme.
Merci. So all of these tablings essentially gives permission to Mrs. McKercher as our town clerk to release these to the public. So in the case of the town planning advisory minutes, they will end up on the town's website in the next few days. And the monthly reports for permits, I guess it's through an access to information request that someone would have these, but it just means this is now public information. Section 4, Administration and Finance, item 4.1, approval of disbursements for December of 2023. This resolution is to approve the following disbursements as of December 19th, 2023. Since Helen is in the room, I will read out the payrolls. She likes those numbers. So the subtotal of payments is $928,359.75. There is one payroll included, and it is for $111,512.73. So the total for accounts paid is $1,039,872.48. Français.
En section Administration et Finances, 4.1, approbation des paiements pour le mois de décembre 2023. Alors, la présente résolution vise à approuver le paiement des comptes au 19 décembre 2023. Sous-total des paiements, 928 359,75 sous. La paye numéro 25, 111 512,73. sous, pour un total des comptes payés de 1 039 872 et 48 sous.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Darren Legault, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So perhaps to explain why there is one payroll, because we did ask the question, it is because between the period of when we closed for the month before to when this period was covered, there was actually only one payroll. The others had sort of just skipped it by one day. It means that there will be another disbursements list at the next council meeting, which closes to the 31st of December, because this is not until the 31st of December. And in that one, I forget, there will be 2 pays. Exactly. Item 4.2, refinancing of loan bylaws 615, 612, 616, and 755-2022, adjudication. Whereas the Town of Hudson would like to issue bonds, specifically a bond with a due date as per bylaw numbers 615, 612, 616, and 755-2022. Whereas pursuant to this public tender procedure for the issuance of the aforementioned bonds, the Town of Hudson received 5 complying bids. The bids are given in the resolution. And whereas the calculation result of the actual cost, the offer from Valeurs Mobilières Banque Laurentienne Inc. was deemed to be the most beneficial. So this resolution is that the issuance of bonds in the amounts of $5,111,000 from the Town of Hudson be awarded to Valeurs Mobilières Banque Laurentienne Inc. Et c'est ça.
4.2, refinancement des règlements d'emprunt 615, 612, 616 et 755-2022, l'adjudication. Alors, considérant que conformément au règlement d'emprunt numéro 615, 612, 616 et 755-2022, la Ville de Hudson souhaite émettre une série d'obligations, soit une obligation par échéance. À la suite de l'appel d'offres public pour la vente de l'émission désignée ci-dessous, le ministère des Finances a reçu 5 soumissions conformes. Et le résultat du calcul des coûts réels indique que la soumission présentée par la firme Valeurs Mobilières Banque Laurentienne est la plus avantageuse. La présente résolution vise à ce que l'émission d'obligations au montant de 5 111 000 $ de la Ville d'Hudson soit adjugée à la firme Valeurs Mobilières Banque Laurentienne Incorporée.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So perhaps just to give some clarification, these are refinancing of loans that we do every 5 years. And in this case, because usually when Steve Farrell's in the room, he'll ask le coût réel, so the actual cost in percentage, so this is the interest rate, I guess, Benoit, is 4.59698. So obviously the interests are increasing from when they were originally financed, and these are part of sort of the increases that we're seeing in our budget. We see in the information that is in this resolution that in 2025, the percentage is 4.95, then drops to 4.5, then 4.25 for the last 3 years. So it's to say that they are expecting that interest rates will gradually return to something a little more prévisible, a little more previsible, forecastable. Anyway, less inflationist. How's that? Bon. Item 4.3. So this is the same bylaws, refinancing the loan bylaws 615, 612, 616, 755-2022. This is for the agreement portion. So the Town of Hudson would like to issue a series of bonds, 1 bond per maturity, specifically a term bond for January of 2024 in the amount of $5,111,000. And these are split as follows, because it may be of interest to someone like Jim Duff, who is online. Loan by law 615 is for $3,398,400. Loan by law 612 is for $141,100. Loan bylaw 616 is for $471,500, and loan bylaw 755-2022 is for $1,100,000. That last one is for the work of Main Road East. If some of you may remember, when we adopted that loan bylaw, it was at 1.8 million. So we actually, the cost of the work was lesser than what we had anticipated. And for the widening portion of it, which came on afterwards as an add-on to the project, we actually paid for that out of our accumulated surplus. So this explains why in this case, the loan bylaw for this one is lower, which is a good thing considering the high interest rates at this point in time. Continuing, whereas in accordance with the first paragraph of Section 2 of the Municipal Loans and Debts Act, for the purposes of this bond issue, the Town of Hudson wishes to issue for a shorter term than that originally set out in the aforementioned bylaws. So this is for all of them. C'est bon. En français?
Donc, la résolution vise... The loan bylaw, si vous voulez continuer le
Ah, mon Dieu. The resolution is that the loan bylaws be financed by bonds. Je m'excuse, Madame Kircher. It's a very long one. At the bottom of the next page, the term prescribed for the said amortization of the borrowing bylaws 615, 612, 616, 755-2022 be issued for a shorter term than the term provided for in the loan bylaws, and that the term is of 5 years as of January 22nd, 2024. And that is it.
4.3, refinancement des règlements d'emprunt 615, 612, 616 et 755-2022. Alors, c'est une résolution de concordance. La Ville de Hudson souhaite émettre une série d'obligations, soit une obligation par échéance, pour un montant total de 5 111 000 $, qui sera réalisé le 22 janvier 2024, réparti comme suit: 615, 3 398 400 $, le règlement 612, 141 100 $, 616, 471 500 et le 755-2022 qui est pour la rue Main, 1 100 000 $. Alors, considérant que conformément au premier alinéa de l'article 2 de la Loi sur les dettes et emprunts municipaux, pour les fins de cette émission d'obligations, la Ville d'Hudson souhaite émettre pour un terme plus court que celui originellement fixé à ces règlements. Alors, la présente résolution vise à ce que les règlements d'emprunt soient financés par obligation et que le terme prévu dans les règlements d'emprunt numéro 615, 112, 116 et 755-2022 soit plus court que celui originellement fixé, c'est-à-dire pour un terme de 5 ans à compter du 22 janvier 2024.
Merci. Do I have a proposer? Benoit Blais, seconded by Mark Gray is making a smile. So by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 4.4, renewal, hiring contract, finance department. So again, this is to compensate for some short-staffed situation that we have in that department. So considering that the finance department has been without one of its accounting technicians since April 5th and this is of 2023, for an indefinite period, whereas it is possible to renew the offer of service for a support mandate for the finance department. This resolution is to renew the agreement for the services of the firm Robert Half on a temporary basis as accounting technician for the finance department, and that the duration of the mandate be a maximum of 22 weeks or upon the return of the employees absent, whichever comes first, at an hourly rate of $52 for a maximum amount of $27,500 before taxes.
4.4, renouvellement, embauche contractuelle, département de finances. Alors, le service des finances est dépourvu d'une de ses techniciennes en comptabilité depuis le 5 avril, et ce pour une durée indéterminée. La possibilité de renouveler l'offre de service pour un mandat de soutien au service des finances. Alors, la résolution vise à renouveler l'entente pour les services de la firme Robert Half pour un contrat temporaire à titre de technicien comptable attitré au service des finances et que la durée du mandat soit d'un maximum de 22 semaines ou au retour de l'employé en absence, selon la première échéance, à un taux horaire de 52 $ pour un montant maximal de 27 500 $ avant taxe.
Merci. Do I have a proposer? Darren Legault, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Moving on to Section 5, Town Clerk, Mrs. McCarthy's favorite section, since it belongs to her. 5.1, Environment Committee Nomination Updates, whereas Resolution R 2022-06-163 created the Environment Committee and appointed its members. Considering that for the proper functioning of the committee and to replace the departure of certain members, it is necessary to update the appointments of the Environment Committee to replace these members for a term of 2 years. This resolution is to appoint the following persons as member residents of the Environment Committee for a 2-year term commencing January 10th of 2024. These people are James McIntosh, Stéphane Desjardins, Kirsten Bowser, Ariane Johansson.
Alors, la section 5, greffe. 5.1, mise à jour des nominations au comité en environnement. La résolution R 2022-06-163, créant le comité en environnement et nommant des membres résidents. Alors, considérant que pour le bon fonctionnement du comité, pour remplacer le départ de certains membres, il y a lieu de faire la mise à jour des nominations au comité en environnement. La présente résolution vise à nommer les personnes suivantes à titre de membres résidents au comité du comité en environnement pour un terme de 2 ans qui débute le 10 janvier 2024. Alors, les personnes suivantes, James McIntosh, Stéphane Desjardins, Kirsten Bowser et Ariane Johansson.
So my mistake, I said Johansson, but it's Ariane Johansson. Is that it? All right, thank you. So mover would be Mark Gray, seconded probably from your assistant counselor. That'd be Darren Legault. So Darren and Mark both sit on this committee. That's why I was looking for Darren. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.2, so as explained by Mark earlier in the meeting, so this is for the abolition of the Ad Hoc Conservation Working Group, the CWG, whereas Resolution R 2022-01-20 created the Ad Hoc Conservation Working Group. Considering the specific mandate of the committee at the time of its creation has been completed, this resolution is to abolish the Ad Hoc Conservation Working Group. And the request, wait, am I in the right place? Oh, it's the next one. C'est bon, allez-y.
5.2, abolition du comité ad hoc chargé à la conservation. La résolution R 2022-01-20, créant le comité ad hoc chargé à la conservation. Alors, considérant que le mandat spécifique du comité lors de sa création a été complété, la présente résolution vise à abolir le comité ad hoc chargé à la conservation.
Merci. So proposed by Mark Gray, seconded, Doug? Do you want to second it, or you're okay? Yes. And seconded by Doug Gray. Doug Smith. The reason I was looking for Doug Smith on this, he was the co-counselor on this committee. Thank you. So thank you both. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none, so it is carried unanimously. Donc, thank you everyone for your service on this committee. It's been much appreciated. Item 5.3 has a very long title. This is why I got confused. So the title is Support Request that the Government of Canada and the Government of Quebec amend the Canadian Energy Regulator onshore pipeline regulations to change the definition of a pipeline incident by lowering the threshold from its current level of 1,500 litres to 208 litres and amend the regulation respecting hazardous material to require pipeline companies to disclose petroleum product leaks of 25 litres or more to the Government of Quebec and to the municipalities concerned. So this is why I got a little bit confused about which resolution we were in. So here we are. Whereas the request for support received from the Table de Concertation Régionale de la Montérégie, whereas Quebec municipalities are not informed and do not know the extent of the majority of pipeline leaks that occur on their territory, nor the precise quantities of hydrocarbons spilled, whereas 5 major pipelines across whereas there are 5 major pipelines where there are 5 major pipelines that cross the territory of the MRC of Vaudreuil-Soulanges, whereas a total of 12 pipelines cross several territories in the Montérégie administrative region. It's quite a few. This resolution is to send the present resolution to the Fédération québécoise des municipalités, la FQM, the Union des municipalités du Québec, the UMQ, and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the FCM, so that they may make the necessary representations to request that, 1, the Government of Canada amend the Canadian Energy Regulator onshore pipeline regulations to change the definition of a pipeline incident by lowering the threshold from its current level of 1,500 liters to 208 liters. And second, that the Government of Quebec amend the bylaw respecting hazardous materials to require pipeline companies to disclose leaks of petroleum products of 25 liters or more, and to send a copy of this resolution to the regroupement des tables décisionnelles de la Montérégie.
5.3, appui. Alors, c'est une demande au gouvernement du Canada et au gouvernement du Québec de modifier le règlement de la Régie canadienne de l'énergie sur les pipelines terrestres pour changer la définition d'un incident de pipeline en abaissant le seuil de son niveau actuel de 1500 litres à 208 litres et de modifier le règlement sur les matières dangereuses afin d'obliger les pipelinières à divulguer les fuites de produits pétroliers de 25 litres et plus au gouvernement du Québec et aux municipalités concernées. Alors, la demande d'appui reçue de la table de concertation régionale de la Montérégie, considérant que les municipalités du Québec ne sont pas informées et ne connaissent pas l'ampleur de la majorité des fuites de pipelines qui se produisent sur leur territoire, ni les quantités précises d'hydrocarbures répandus. 5 pipelines majeurs traversent le territoire de la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Un total de 12 pipelines traversent plusieurs territoires de la région administrative de la Montérégie. Alors, la présente résolution vise à transmettre cette résolution à la Fédération québécoise des municipalités, à l'Union des municipalités du Québec, à la Fédération canadienne des municipalités, afin que ces dernières fassent les représentations nécessaires afin de demander que le gouvernement du Canada modifie le règlement de la Régie canadienne de l'énergie sur les pipelines terrestres pour changer la définition d'un incident de pipeline en abaissant le seuil de son niveau actuel de 1500 litres à 208 litres et que le gouvernement du Québec de modifier le règlement sur les matières dangereuses afin d'obliger les pipelinières à divulguer les fuites de produits pétroliers de 25 litres et plus, et de transmettre également une copie de la résolution au regroupement des tables décisionnelles de la Montérégie.
I have a proposer, Mark Gray, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. Mark Gray and Reed Thompson. Obviously, these are just messages that are sent to the governments looking to motivate them to change the regulations. We know that pipelines are certainly, when we look at Kalamazoo, Michigan, and any other, that's a concern. They're aging infrastructure, and in our case, it crosses at the eastern tip and then goes into the river. So it is something that could have a serious repercussion on our wildlife, but also on human life and human quality of life and health. So thank you for bringing this to our attention, Mrs. McKercher. Item 5.4, support for the municipality of Percé. This is in response to the appeal of the Superior Court of Quebec judgment invalidating its bylaw. So this is the bylaw of the municipality of Percé, which looked to impose a regulatory royalty to contribute to the financing of municipal tourism infrastructures. So whereas the city of Percé adopted on September 28th of 2021 the bylaw number 575-2021 imposing a regulatory fee to contribute to the financing of municipal tourism infrastructures, whereas bylaw number 575-2021 was the subject of an application for nullity, so a judicial review, which was filed with the Superior Court of Quebec. Whereas the Superior Court judgment was rendered on June 16th of 2023, and declared that bylaw number 575-2021 was legal or is illegal, the City of Percé has decided to appeal this decision, and whereas the City of Percé needs the support of all Quebec municipalities in its effort to have the validity of its bylaw imposing a regulatory fee recognized, the Town of Hudson is also of the opinion that the case presents issues of interest to all Quebec municipalities, and this resolution is to support the City of Percé in its efforts to have the legality of its bylaw imposing a tourist fee recognized.
5.4, appui à la Ville de Percé, appel du jugement de la Cour supérieure du Québec invalidant son règlement imposant une redevance réglementaire pour contribuer au financement des infrastructures touristiques municipales. Alors, la Ville de Percé a adopté le 28 septembre 2021 le règlement numéro 575-2021 imposant une redevance réglementaire pour contribuer au financement des infrastructures touristiques municipales. Le règlement numéro 575-2021 a fait l'objet d'une demande en nullité, laquelle a été déposée à la Cour supérieure du Québec. Le jugement de la Cour supérieure a été rendu le 16 juin 2023 et a déclaré le règlement numéro 575-2021 illégal. La Ville de Percé a pris la décision d'inscrire ce jugement en appel. La Ville de Percé a besoin de l'appui de l'ensemble des municipalités du Québec dans ses démarches pour faire reconnaître la validité de son règlement imposant une redevance réglementaire. Et la Ville de Hudson est également d'avis que cette cause présente des enjeux d'intérêt pour l'ensemble des municipalités du Québec. Alors, la présente résolution vise à appuyer la Ville de Percé dans ses démarches pour faire reconnaître la légalité de son règlement imposant une redevance touristique.
Merci. Do I have a mover for this resolution? Benoit Blais, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So again, these are efforts by some municipalities that are greatly impacted by tourism and the impacts seasonal tourism, and looking to find ways of distributing the cost of the impacts of tourism, not just on local residents, but looking on ways to finance differently the cost of, say, garbage management and other impacts that it may have. So this is, I believe it was Marie-Jacinthe who brought this to us, so thank you. It's an interesting, I think, topic. It's one that we often think about, you know. It's with community patrol or garbage or waste or supervision, anything that we go through, parking. It's one of those things that right now, certainly our residents are having to carry the weight of that burden. And it would be nice if there was a tool or a mechanism through the government that enabled the towns to go and alleviate some of that cost. Moving on to Section 6 on human resources, item 6.1, hiring at the Culture and Recreation Department. So this is activities and events technician. Whereas activities and events technician for the Culture and Recreation Departments has been vacant since August 10th of 2023. A posting took place. This resolution is to hire Ms. Laurence Bergeron-Michaud as an activities and events technician for the Culture and Recreation Department, and that the hiring of Ms. Laurence Bergeron-Michaud be effective as of February 5th of 2024.
Section 6, ressources humaines. 6.1, embauche au service de la culture et des loisirs, technicienne en activités et événements. Alors, considérant que la fonction de technicien en activités et événements pour le service de la culture et des loisirs est dépourvue de son titulaire depuis le 10 août 2023, un affichage a eu lieu. La présente résolution vise à embaucher Mme Laurence Bergeron-Michaud au titre de technicienne en activités et événements au service de la culture et des loisirs, et que l'embauche de Mme Laurence Bergeron-Michaud soit effective dès le 5 février 2024.
Darren Legault moving, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? There is one. Would you like the vote to be recorded?
Yes, please. And then may I say a comment?
Yes, of course.
So just to be clear, I'm voting no on the basis that, in my opinion, the town has not justified the necessity of hiring such an employee, considering the size of our town and the service offered by that town. I'm not voting against the choice of hiring that specific person.
Merci. It is carried by majority. Donc, welcome, Laurence. We look forward to working with you, and obviously there will be continued conversations around the council table with regards to the weight or the quantity of employees and whether it is justified or not. We certainly had a conversation with regards to the quantity of services, I guess. The Recreations Department is one of the primary contacts where we provide direct services to our citizens, and considering the number, the quantity of services that we offer in this sense, we were looking to improve our services, whether it is with regards to the pool, the events also during the summer. There is also an interface with the merchants that is increasing and very important as well, that we would like to provide a better services to our merchants. So there are several, say, des chantiers or sort of works on our table. And for us, in comparison with other towns, it seems that it is not a job that can be taken just by one employee, but we have heard the comments of Benoit and certainly will continue to look into, are there other opportunities in other areas to look at being more efficient. But at this time, 35 employees for a town of 5,500 seems to be about right. So we'll continue to have that conversation, and I thank you for your comment. Moving on to item 6.2, hiring at the Public Works Department. This is for the Assistant of Public Works Foreman. The employee appointed, so the Assistant Foreman will be leaving his position. A posting took place, and this resolution is to hire Mr. Youssef Belrazem as Assistant Foreman, and that the hiring of Mr. Youssef Belrazem be effective as of January 15th of 2024.
6.2, embauche au service des travaux publics, contremaître adjoint. L'employé nommé contremaître adjoint se retire du poste. Un affichage a eu lieu. Alors, la présente résolution vise à embaucher M. Youssef Belrazem au titre de contremaître adjoint au service des travaux publics, et son embauche, l'embauche de M. Youssef Belrazem va être effective dès le 15 janvier 2024.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So we'd like to thank the Assistant Foreman who is leaving his position. Thank you for your service, and we look forward to working with Youssef Belrazem, who I believe passed with decent colors and will bring, we hope, a fresh practices and ways of working at the town. So it'll be a pleasure to meet with him and to see some results of his work. Merci. Section 7, Culture and Recreation, there are no new items. In Section 8 of Public Works, Item 8.1, Assistance Program for Local Roadways. This is a subcomponent for particular projects to improve electoral districts. So this is the provincial electoral districts. And on accountability. In French, it reads as reddition de comptes, so it's really the administration, the administrative accountability, sort of providing of accounts. Whereas the town of Hudson has read the terms and conditions of the application for the specific improvements project, so SIP, component of the Local Roads Assistant Program, the LRAP, and agrees to comply with them. Whereas the work was carried out in the calendar year in which the minister authorized it, the submission of the project's accountability report was made. This resolution is to approve the accounting of the expenses in the amount of $1,474.95, to recognize that in the event of non-compliance with these requirements, the financial assistance will be terminated.
Section culture et loisirs, il n'y a aucun point. Section 8, travaux publics. 8.1, programme d'aide à la voirie locale, sous-volet, projet particulier d'amélioration par circonscription électorale provinciale, reddition de comptes. Alors, la Ville d'Hudson a pris connaissance des modalités d'application du volet projet particulier d'amélioration, le PPA, du programme d'aide à la voirie locale, le PAVL, et s'engage à le respecter. Les travaux ont été réalisés dans l'année civile au cours de laquelle le ministre les a autorisés, et la transmission de la reddition des comptes des projets a été effectuée. La présente résolution vise à approuver la reddition de compte des dépenses d'un montant de 1 474,95 sous avant taxe relative aux travaux d'amélioration réalisés et aux frais inhérents admissibles et de reconnaître qu'en cas de non-respect de celle-ci, l'aide financière sera résiliée.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. So maybe amusingly or non-amusingly, even though we are submitting for up to over $1 million worth of work, the expected return on this subsidy is only $10,000. So it's an awful lot of administrative work and accounting and resolution for not very much money, but every dollar counts, so we'll take it. And thank you for doing this work. Section 9 on public safety, there are no items. Section 10, item 10.1, bylaw 764-2023, decreeing the taxation for the 2024 fiscal year. This is for the adoption. So in December, we passed the draft, so the first motion or draft. So whereas the notice of motion of this bylaw was given at the special meeting of the Municipal Council held on December 11th of 2023, whereas the proposed bylaw tabled on December 11th of 2023 was amended as follow. There are two modifications. At section 20, bylaw 504, the special tax was modified to $34.91, and at section 21, bylaw 505, the special tax was modified to $106.14, and whereas that the purpose of this bylaw is to establish the rate of taxation for the 2024 fiscal year, this resolution is to adopt the bylaw number 764-2023, decreeing the taxation for the 2024 fiscal year.
Section 9, Sécurité publique, aucun point. Section 10, Règlement. 10.1, Adoption, règlement numéro 764-2023, décrétant l'imposition des taxes pour l'exercice financier 2024. Alors, un avis de motion du président règlement a été donné à la séance extraordinaire du Conseil municipal tenue le 11 décembre 2023. Le projet de règlement déposé le 11 décembre s'est vu modifié de la façon suivante. À l'article 20, règlement 504, la taxe spéciale a été modifiée pour 34,91 $. Et à l'article 21, règlement 505, la taxe spéciale a été modifiée pour 106,14 $. Considérant que l'objet de ce règlement est d'établir l'imposition des taxes pour l'exercice financier 2024, la présente résolution vise à adopter le règlement numéro 764-2023, décrétant l'imposition des taxes pour l'exercice financier 2024.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. So for clarification, Jim Duff, since I know you will be asking the question, you recognize these numbers, 504, 505. These are, I guess it's the sewer and water. These are for a network and for the building, if I remember correctly. But essentially, in December, in the bylaw that we submitted with those sectorials numbers, la répartition, so the distribution between what is sectorial and what is to the general tax, was revised. So in December for 504, we had submitted $56.80, and it has now been reduced to $34.91. With regards to 505, in December, we had submitted, and I'm looking for my note, $256.70, and so now it has been reduced to $106.14. So both are reductions. These are corrections after doing a double verification on where we were at with regards to the tarification. It has no impact on the overall number of the budget. It only, I believe we were looking at what is the impact in the redistribution, and it's about $94,000 that is redistributed from sectorial to the general. So it was already budgeted. That's right. So it came back to the whole. So it's really, it's finesse, but it's going in the right direction is the news there. C'est bon? Donc, ça a été adopté à l'unanimité. Moving on to item 10.2, adoption of bylaw 765-2023 on tariffs. Whereas the notice of motion for this bylaw was given at the special meeting of the Municipal Council held on December 11th of 2023, there have been no changes to the proposed bylaw tabled on December 11th of 2023. The purpose of this bylaw is to establish the tariffs and user fees to be charged during the 2024 fiscal year. So this resolution is to adopt the bylaw number 765-2023 on tariffs.
Alors, le point 10.2, adoption règlement 765-2023 sur la tarification. Entendu qu'un avis de motion du présent règlement a été donné à la séance extraordinaire du Conseil municipal tenue le 11 décembre 2023, le présent règlement ne comporte aucune modification au projet déposé le 11 décembre 2023. L'objet de ce règlement est d'établir les tarifs et les frais d'utilisation à percevoir pour l'exercice financier 2024. La résolution est d'adopter le règlement numéro 765-2023 sur la tarification.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution?
Do we need a seconder or a mover? Sorry.
Yes, because we did the notice of motion and this is the final. Okay, that's good. So it is carried unanimously, or unless there was any objections? No, c'est bon. So it's carried unanimously. Item 10.3, bylaw 767-2024. We're getting there, Mark. Look. Amending zoning bylaw 526, subdivision bylaw 527, permits and certificate bylaw 529, site planning and architectural integration programs. So for SPAPE, bylaw 571, this is for the notice of motion and the tabling of the draft. So, Councillor Mark Gray gives notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved the adoption of the draft bylaw 767-2024, amending zoning bylaw 526, subdivision bylaw 527, permits and certificates bylaw 529, site planning and architectural integration programs of the SPAPE, bylaw 571. The purpose of this bylaw is for the town to be given the necessary, thank you. My mother would be laughing. Regulatory tools in order to protect trees and natural areas and to modify the provisions surrounding cadastral operations requiring the transfer or payment of a sum of money for parks, playgrounds, or natural areas.
10.3, avis de motion et dépôt du projet, règlement 767-2024, visant à modifier les règlements de zonage numéro 526, de lotissement numéro 527, sur les permis certificats numéro 529, sur les plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale PIA, le numéro 571. Le conseiller Mark Gray donne avis de motion de l'intention de soumettre pour adoption le projet de règlement 767-2024, visant à modifier les règlements de zonage numéro 526, de lotissement numéro 527, sur les permis et certificats numéro 529, sur les plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale PIA numéro 571. L'objet de ce règlement est que la Ville se dote d'outils réglementaires afin de protéger les arbres et les milieux naturels et de modifier les dispositions entourant les opérations cadastrales nécessitant la cession ou le versement d'une somme d'argent pour fin de parc, terrain de jeu ou espace naturel.
Merci.
And a point of order, my apologies, I had turned the page too fast. That's why I said there didn't need to be a seconder. So there you go.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's a lot of written material.
No, I'm sorry. I turned it over too fast.
And as this is a notice of motion and tabling of the draft, this part does not need a vote. But the next one does. Item 10.4, so this is adoption of the draft for the same. Bylaw 767, sounds like an airplane, -2024, amending zoning bylaw 526, subdivision bylaw 527, permits and certificate bylaw 529, site planning and architectural integration programs of the SPAPE, bylaw 571. So whereas the notice of motion of this bylaw was given at the regular sitting of the Municipal Council today, held on January 10th of 2023. This resolution is that the draft of the bylaw 767-2024, amending zoning bylaw 526, subdivision bylaw 527, permits and certificates bylaw 529, site planning and architectural integration program SPAPE bylaw 571 be adopted, and that the town clerk determine the date, time, and place of the public consultation that will be held concerning this project and publish the required public notice.
10.4, adoption du projet, règlement 767-2024 visant à modifier les règlements de zonage numéro 526, de lotissement numéro 527, sur les permis et certificats numéro 529, sur les plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale, le PIA numéro 571. Alors, considérant qu'un avis de motion du présent règlement a été donné à la séance ordinaire du Conseil de ce jour, tenue le 10 janvier 2023, la présente résolution vise à ce que le projet de règlement 767-2024 visant à modifier les règlements de zonage numéro 526, de lotissement numéro 527, sur les permis certificats numéro 529 et sur les plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale PIA numéro 571 soit adopté et que la greffière détermine la date, l'heure et le lieu de l'Assemblée publique de consultation qui doit être tenue sur ce projet et diffuse l'avis public requis.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Mark Gray, seconded. Oh. Doug Smith. Thank you. Are there any objections to this resolution? I was about to say bylaw. Resolution? Objections? None? It is carried unanimously. So this is a huge step for all of us. It's taken us quite a while to get to this point. And we'd like to thank the team for getting us to this point. So thank you to the previous council as well for preparing the way to us to getting to here. And we're really, really looking forward to hearing back from the community on how well we've done and if we should be doing more with regards to protections of natural areas, or maybe we should reduce our efforts. So anyway, I look forward to this period of public consultation. Item 10.5, bylaw 768-2024 on comprehensive development programs. So this is related. It is, when we say comprehensive development programs, in French we call them les plans d'aménagement d'ensemble, so les PAE. So it's the same process. This is a notice of motion and tabling of the draft. So Councillor Mark Gray gives notice of motion that he would move or cause to be moved the adoption of the draft bylaw 768-2024 on comprehensive development programs. The purpose of this bylaw is to allow the town to adopt a global approach in order to better control the development of sectors still available, particularly in relation to the protection of natural environments, and a bylaw on comprehensive development programs for these sectors is an essential complement to the applicable traditional urban planning regulations.
10.5, avis de motion et dépôt du projet règlement 768-2024 sur les plans d'aménagement d'ensemble. Le conseiller Mark Gray donne avis de motion de l'intention de soumettre pour adoption le projet de règlement 768-2024 sur les plans d'aménagement d'ensemble. L'objet de ce règlement est que la Ville se dote d'une approche globale pour ainsi mieux encadrer le développement des secteurs encore disponibles, notamment en lien avec la protection des milieux naturels, et qu'un règlement sur les plans d'aménagement d'ensemble pour ces territoires s'avère un complément essentiel à la réglementation d'urbanisme traditionnelle applicable.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Mark Gray, seconded by Reed Thompson.
Non, c'est l'avis de motion.
Je n'ai pas encore fait au 10.6, désolé. So the next item, 10.6, is for the adoption of this bylaw. So it's a new bylaw, bylaw 768-2026 on comprehensive development programs. So whereas the notice of motion was just given at the regular sitting of the Municipal Council held today on January 10th of 2023, this resolution is that the draft of bylaw 768-2024 on comprehensive development programs be adopted, and that the town clerk determine the date, time, and place of the public consultation that will be held concerning the project and publish the required public notice.
10.6, adoption du règlement 768-2024 sur les plans d'aménagement d'ensemble. Attendu qu'un avis de motion du présent règlement a été donné à la présente séance du Conseil municipal le 10 janvier 2023. La présente résolution vise à ce que le projet de règlement 768-2024 sur les plans d'aménagement d'ensemble soit adopté et que la greffière détermine la date, l'heure et le lieu de l'Assemblée publique de consultation qui doit être tenue sur ce projet et diffuse l'avis public requis.
Merci. So it is Mark Gray and Reed Thompson. Yeah.
We're doing the notice of motion, and at the same time, we're doing the next agenda item. We're passing the actual, what we just gave the notice of motion
So they're
for?
two separate things, yeah. So what we're doing is the notice of motion and then the draft. The draft is what allows us to submit these publicly and start the consultation process.
The notice of motion was for the tabling of the draft, but the adoption is for the actual adoption of the bylaw.
The draft.
The draft.
If you read the text, maybe the title isn't clear, but in the text, it says the draft of bylaw. Donc, dans le titre, c'était pas clair.
Okay, so below it says that the draft of bylaw.
Yeah, we're missing. That's not on the public agenda.
On vient de me signaler, Madame McKercher.
Projet.
But I always
Dans le
thought
titre.
you gave a notice of
Dans le
motion.
titre.
There was a-
Oui, mais aussi, je ne sais pas si l'agenda qui était en ligne, s'il y avait les items 10.5 et 10.6, parce que l'agenda que vous nous avez donné qui est imprimé,
for adoption.
les items 10.5 et 10.6 n'y sont pas.
Perhaps.
We will.
Sorry?
We will, but we'll see what she says. En ligne.
Parce que les deux
Mais effectivement, dans la première version, il n'y avait pas de 10.5.
Okay, so
règlements,
online.
en ligne, les...
Otherwise, do you need us to propose an amendment to the agenda, or you're okay?
non, parce que vous l'avez, non.
Non?
Non.
C'est bon. So online, we have a different agenda where there's missing item 10.5 and 10.6, but the understanding is that online you have the full agenda with 10.5 and 10.6. They're checking right now. Otherwise, we will have to amend, I believe, the agenda.
Et vous l'avez l'agenda. Non, mais ce que vous avez adopté, c'est l'agenda qui est contenu dans le procès verbal.
Oui,
Donc,
dans le procès verbal. OK. C'est bon? A technicality. Are we good?
J'ai un délai là, pour le
C'est
téléchargement.
bon? Mais écoutez, je vais nous laisser avancer. Is there any new business under 11? Did we vote on this?
Sur leur papier, là.
You got a proposer and a second.
Est-ce que vous avez eu notre vote pour l'item 10.6?
10.6,
Mark et Reed.
Oui. And
Sans
is there any
objection.
objection to this bylaw, to this resolution? Any hands? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 11, new business? No? Is there ever? There could be. It's happened. Okay, second question period. So online, I see there is a hand up. I will start with that hand, and anybody interested in the room to come to the microphone, please do. So Jim Duff, your hand is up. You have, tu as la parole.
There.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I picked up a copy of the proposed agenda at the table at the entrance before the meeting, and there is no 10.5, no 10.6. So you're going to have to correct that.
But I believe that that's the printed, but we are looking if online.
Yeah, but which takes precedence? I believe the printed one, the one that's posted, is the one that takes precedence over the online version.
Celui qui est posté.
I mean, we could. It's not a big deal. Is it a big deal? Madame McCurcher, on va le faire?
Oui, oui, on va.
On le fait?
Oui, oui.
So Jim, we will do it. Do you mind if I take your question afterwards?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So is there anyone who proposes an amendment to the agenda? So Reed Thompson proposes an amendment, and you would like to present the agenda with the amendment of item 10.5 and 10.6? Correct. And so do you know the titles of them? They are in our procès-verbal, of course, so we have them. So it is.
I will second
yes.
that.
And are there any objections to this amendment? There are none.
It's Reed Thompson and Mark Gray.
And Doug Smith.
Smith.
And Doug Smith. C'est appuyé par Doug Smith.
L'ajout.
L'ajout.
OK, c'est beau.
C'est bon?
Oui.
Il n'y a eu aucune objection. Maintenant, voulez-vous qu'on adopte l'agenda modifié?
Bien, dans le fond, c'est qu'avec l'adoption de l'agenda de l'ordre du jour, vous l'adoptez avec la modification. Je n'ai pas besoin de deux résolutions. Donc, j'avais celle de Reed Thompson et Mike Gray avec l'ajout du 10.5 et 10.6.
Doug Smith.
OK. Donc, ça, c'est le Doug Smith et...
Qui le propose? C'est Mark Gray et Doug Smith.
OK.
Marc?
Ben, je ne sais plus. Doug Smith.
C'est ça, en fait, c'est que tantôt, on a adopté en arrêtant à 10-4. Puis l'ajout, en fait, ce serait Reed et Doug qui le proposent.
Okay. Voilà.
L'ajout de 10-5, 10-6.
Voilà. Parce que c'est une nouvelle résolution, non?
Que je vais intégrer suite à 1.1.
Oui, d'accord.
Je vais l'intégrer
Ça,
avant,
c'est
puis
une
après,
nouvelle
on va adopter la résolution.
OK, parfait. Does that work for you, Doug? It is?
Yeah, I
C'est bon?
think so.
Okay. Yeah,
C'est bon?
oui.
I think so.
Parce qu'effectivement, sur le web.
All right, so returning. Thank you, Jim. We're returning now to our second question period, so please go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Good. Yeah, thanks for doing that. It's good to have that one, especially on this series of legislation.
You are correct. Thank you.
Yeah, listen, 10.4, Mike, I'm going to ask you this in one question, but it has three parts. And how long does the MRC have to respond? I know that you have to adopt this to propose it, to push it to the MRC level. How long do they have to respond? My second part is, do density parameters require CMM, Montreal Metropolitan Community approval? And the third, when will the RCI be lifted?
Right. So the modified, if there are modifications brought to the bylaws that we have just submitted or adopted the draft of these after or through the consultation process, there will be, as we said, that in-person consultation and then the written consultation. If there are any modifications that are brought to the bylaws, these will be integrated into the next iteration. I'm trying to find my calendar here for that. So that would bring to a modification of the bylaws between, say, the end of February and the beginning of March. And there will be a presentation at a working meeting with Council, say, in the first half of March. And then the adoption of the final bylaws, so the same one we just adopted the first draft to this evening, are scheduled at this time at the regular session of April 2nd. Once those final bylaws have been adopted, then we send them to the MRC for conformity to the regional master plan, so the schéma d'aménagement. And remember that the schéma d'aménagement already is conformant to the metropolitan plan that is presently active. So we don't have to go back to the CMM for that. That's already been done. It is now the MRC that becomes the one that sees whether we're compliant with the next step. And the MRC, the deadline or the delay that they have for all revision or all validation of bylaws is 120 days. We don't know if they'll use all of the 120 days. We've already started meeting with them to keep that delay as short as possible. But that is the unknown for us. Is that period, because everything else we've basically given ourselves the required time for any modifications, for the consultation, for all of that. So according to our calculations, if we take the worst date, the adoption, so the lifting of the RCI would be at the latest middle of August. But again, all of these dates are subject to change, but so far that's what we're looking at.
And if I may, I can draw to your attention that citizens that are concerned about this or have an interest in this, we are going to be there is no approval by voie de référendum, but there is a public consultation process that is required, and you've set the map for that, and I believe you're going to be getting that out by the end of the week.
You will find the pamphlet that I have here in hand, all that information. I'm looking to make sure you can see it, but all of this information will be available on the town's website as of tomorrow. It's essentially an invitation from the town of Hudson to residents and property owners to come and share your views or opinions on the preservation of trees and natural areas in our town. So really to come and learn about what changes have been made or are being proposed at this time and how these are received and whether we need to make any changes. So no, there is no referendum, but there is an extensive consultation process. I believe that the town of Hudson has gone above and beyond in terms of really rolling this out. I don't even think we were required to do a consultation because it is protection of the environment, which now doesn't even have to go through referendum process. But we chose to do this because we really want to do it with the buy-in of the population. And this is a new format for us because we've hired a very experienced person in public consultation whose full intent is really in terms of public acceptability. So I look forward to this process. I was describing it to Mark today. It's a little bit like giving up my baby for adoption, and suddenly it's been dressed in this Gucci gear, and I hardly recognize it. But I'm going to trust that this child is going to be perfectly fine, and that we'll be very proud of all of its achievements when it graduates from school. So that's sort of how it feels to me, but I'm a mother. So. Yes, thank you. So this is where we're at. Did you have more questions, Jim?
Just very quickly, my one other question is, in the past we've not had access to the maps and to the full extent of how it would affect individual properties, neighborhoods, and so on. Can you give us the assurance that every part of this process you're open to transparency, to questions, and there is total transparency? We're not going to be led down the garden path on anything. I'm not saying you were guilty of that, but we've seen this in the past. No, I don't want to see that again.
Yeah, no, I understand the fear. We all remember, I think it's 526.8, is that the one? We all remember it very well. We have to remember, right, that these are bylaws that are still specific yet general, but the public consultation period will not be an opportunity for each person to bring their lot number and say, how does this actively impact my property? Because that would take so much time, and the purpose of the consultation is really to understand and explain the intent behind it and what the changes have been. So absolutely, people should look at the maps that will be up during the open house, and if they're not familiar with finding their property on the map, they can always ask for support from someone who will be in the room and ask. But I think you'll find that most of the proposed changes at this time are those that were already included in the RCI, so we've had 2 years of living with some of these constraints and the impacts that these have had. And so in that sense, I believe that those parts are already well known. It's just we're applying them to the whole of the territory of Hudson, so not just that 38%. And this is really in terms of protections of trees and the tree canopy. The other parts are really taking best advantage of the changes in the law with regards to, you remember before we only had the 10% park in the case of subdivisions. Now there are many, many other chances to go and recuperate some of that money in order to supplement our green spaces or protection of natural areas. So we're really going out and maximizing our potential to be able to retrieve additional C'est comme des redevances de développement, if you want, but from protection of the environment. So that is that. There's also the remarkable trees are in there, but I will really let the technical staff, the professionals explain this to the population. They've asked us to kindly step back from this process and to stand as observers. And they've even suggested that if we're not there, that's a good thing. But, you know, I will be there on the 31st of January for the public presentation. I would like everybody else, you know, at council to also be there. But we're there as observers, really to hand over this process to the organization and the consultants that they've hired.
Great, thank you very much. And I've got a lot of reading to do. Thank you.
I think you'll find it difficult to digest, as all bylaws are when they're written in that way, because it's not a consolidated version. So you have to hold, you know, the original plus now see where all the modifications are. I think that you will find the open doors probably the most beneficial, and that's where you're going to glean most of your data, I would think, Jim.
Great, thank you.
Welcome. Are there any other questions? There are none online. Yeah, please come to the microphone, Helen. If you're not at the microphone, the people online won't hear you.
Helen Kurganski, just a quick question. I'm skimmed very quickly, so maybe it's premature to ask my question, but in the bylaw number 768-2024 on comprehensive development programs, you mentioned the applicable territory. And could you explain what it is? It's a CDP-01-R-7 and R15 zones, and the CDP-02, R22, R24, R55, and R70 zones. What are we talking about concretely?
Again, the professionals will be the best people to explain these, but CDP-01 is, my understanding is it's the combination, so it covers two existing zones, R7 and R15. And the CDP-02 covers 4 zones, R22, R24, R55, and R70. And then the description of what is required for those 2 zones when you're supplying a project or when you're presenting a project will be defined in this bylaw.
So what are these in
well, you
concrete
have to read through the bylaw.
Where are these zones? What are these zones? Who are these zones? Sorry, it's just numbers to me.
Remember some of these. R15 is near Como Gardens. R7, I don't remember concretely. R7. Yeah, so there's that. R22, R24 is Sandy Beach. R55 is behind Oakland, Côte St. Charles, in that area. R70 is that remaining. So it's all of the larger parcels that haven't yet been subdivided. It is really to cover those areas and to provide better controls on environment protection.
So if I read the proposed bylaw, but that's the big areas that we're talking about? Or?
It's every big zone that you can think of in Hudson that is still left undeveloped. Okay. That's what we were aiming for. Okay. R7 might be Willowbrook Phase 2, right?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions online? There are none. Are there any other questions in the room? Don't be shy, or I'll see you on Saturday morning. All right, so Section 12, adjournment of the meeting. I'm looking to my right. Anyone want to? Yes. So Benoit Blais, seconded by Mark Gray, that the meeting be adjourned at 8:46 p.m. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening.